Well, here we are again, folks. Welcome back to the Square the Circle Music Channel. I'm your pal, Aaron Major. That's right. And we talk about music appreciation, vinyl record collecting, all kinds of wonderful things here at the Square the Circle Music Channel. So, cop a squat, crack a cold one, and let's get to it, shall we? Tonight's episode, real important to me, real fantastic bit of stuff we're going to talk about here. We're going to talk about my favorite hard rock band of all time. And lots of great things can be said about these American, hard rockers, whatever you want to call them. Lots of people like to throw them into a classification called grunge music, 90s rock, alternative rock, stadium rock, arena rock, whatever the fuck you want to call it, rock. I just call them hard rock. And like I said, they're my favorite hard rock band. And I want to rank their fucking albums. So I'm going to do that tonight. All of their studio albums, which I consider to be 12 of them. I'll discuss with you why that is when we get there. Don't need to go into a long-winded diatribe like I usually like to do at the beginning of these videos. I'm trying to get better at that, boys and girls. But again, tonight we're going to talk about legendary hard rockers, Pearl Jam. I'm going to rank their studio albums, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So here we go. Gonna do something I'm really not accustomed to, and I don't really do that very much. Anyway, you guys that tune into my channel know that I'm kind of the king of winging it here. Here on the old Square to Circle Music Corral. Mage just likes to sit and just fucking wing it, turn it on and just kind of let the spirit fly. But tonight, a little bit of a departure from that. I'm going to do my very best. I made a little page of notes here. Like I said, them being one of my favorite bands of all time. I'd say top 3 of my favorite bands of all time. They really, encompass and embody a huge part of what I loved about my young adulthood, when I was a teenager. Even younger, I discovered Pearl Jam, and, right when they came out, 91, 92. I heard them for the first time on the radio, and ever since I've been inspired and captivated. I think they fucking are amazing. I think they just totally kill. I like the fact that they've been running at it for 30 plus years, and they're still homies, and they still make music together. Most of them, 4 out of 5 are all original members. And the only thing the only issues they ever seem to have is that drummer's curse. They've had at least 5 drummers. So, but ever since I discovered them and heard them on the radio for the first time when I was 12 years old, I've been, like I said, completely captivated. Every aspect of it, not just because of Vedder and his, really kind of like hypnotizing vocal stylings. All of the musicality and all of the, the writers of the songsmiths, just all those guys, they're all songsmiths in their own right. A bit of a kind of like super band in my opinion, not because they're a super group, because they technically are actually a super group, sort of. But they're just like a group of just some of the greatest musicians, and they all play their part. They all help write the songs, and they all have individual songs that they give to the band. And it's just like, what a wonderful, if you're kind of like envisioning like just kind of like the perfect rock band to never fuck it up, to never get totally immersed in like, the rock and roll culture and fame and fortune and drugs and money and women and just all that shit that, you usually lose your favorite rock bands after about 6 or 7 years, maybe 10, 12 years. Some bands can really hang on, but let's get straight. A lot of rock bands just fried. They just fucked up and left us for whatever reason. And Pearl Jam never. I really kind of attribute that to them being a collective more than anything, and just not being, or at least striving to like take ego out of, the equation. If 5 dudes can manage to like take their egos out of the equation for long enough, for 30 years, to amass a 12 album, career, in my opinion, that shit, they deserve to be one of the greatest American rock bands of all time. So let's talk about their studio albums. There's my opening bit. like I was saying, I'm gonna do something that I don't normally do. I took notes, so pardon me while I'm really bad at this, and I'll just keep like looking at my notes and talking to you and do the best I can. So here we go. Top 12 Pearl Jam albums ranked. I don't know why I said top 12, but it's 12 of them, and I'm ranking them starting at number 12. No real reason why this should really be at the bottom of the barrel. I just declare it to be their weakest album. And it's their most recent. I'm talking about Gigaton. Just released in 2020, just a couple years ago. I was really excited for this because it had been quite some time since they had released an album, like probably the longest run in their career of not releasing a studio album. It was something like 7 years. So we've generally always gotten something from Pearl Jam, almost kind of like clockwork. Earlier on in their career was like every 2 years, and then it kind of went to every 4 years, and then it kind of just went, 4 to 6-ish years per album. This one was just kind of on the back burner for a long time. Everyone's got their own personal stories, and who cares? But still a wonderful collection of tunes. It just kind of the sounds are just starting to get a little bit tired to me. Maybe Vedder really needed to go and do his like Earthlings solo stuff and just get a little bit more kind of pizzazz, a little more pep in his step. But this album just kind of seems a little bit kind of tired, honestly. That's kind of a lazy opinion, I suppose. I should probably really dig in deeper and try a little bit harder here. Maybe give it a rest for like a year, and I'll maybe revisit it next year. And, new set of feelers and opinions, and just kind of a whole new way of thinking about it. Still a couple really amazing tracks, which all primarily lie, ironically, kind of like tucked way into the middle back of the album. Like the last 5 songs on the album, like I think it was a double discer, wasn't it? I bought the LP, I ended up selling the LP. So I don't have a copy of it right now, but I think was it a double disc? I don't remember. Anyway, the last 3 to 4 songs on the album is the best lump of stuff I think that they managed to put out on that album. But yeah, my favorites are the Take the Long Way, which is it's a Matt Cameron tune. Matt Cameron has been known to just add a lot of musicianship as well as like quite a bit of songwriting to the group when he joined in the year 2000. So every album has sometimes a couple of Matt Cameron written tunes on it, and they're always fucking fantastic. Such a unique breed of songwriter, being a drummer, by trade, but also being an incredible, he does all the backup vocals now for Eddie Vedder. He has for like the last 15 years. So that added an exciting element to him hopping on board the PJ train, back in 2000 as their 4th or 5th drummer. So yeah, I love that song written by Matt Cameron, the Take the Long Way. Charming song. The next one right in line actually is the song called Buckle Up that Stone Gossard wrote. Really fucking magnificent track. And then of course my favorite track on the album is, generally, I wouldn't say always, but it's almost always an Eddie Vedder written tune. And this one, the Comes Then Goes, that's right, really powerful tune. Really wonderfully written by Eddie Vedder. So, like I said, kind of the very end of the album, a little bit of a bulk chunk there. That was my favorite part of the album. The rest of it just kind of like the radio hit, just kind of had that kind of like interesting new wave 80s inspired sound and feel, and just, I don't know, I didn't really hop aboard the A side very much. Really enjoyed the last half of the album. So that's my number 12, Gigaton. Number 11 on the list for me, again, maybe a little bit of an unpopular opinion amongst Pearl Jam fans, I don't know, but this one was kind of more down toward the bottom end again. I put their self-titled release, the Pearl Jam titled album from 2006. Some call it the Avocado album. It was their first album that they've released independently of Epic Records, finally, after like a, not 2 decade long, but I think at least about 15 years for them to amass or to fulfill their contract with Epic Records of being like a 9 or a 10 album contract or something like that. I don't know. They managed to pull it off by the year 2006, and they went independent, started their own label called Monkey Wrench Records. And yeah, released this one. It's really good. It just is not as memorable as the rest of their career. Um, but again, you know, like you had a bulk of it that was like experimental and kind of, you know, writing by Matt Cameron, did a couple tunes on it. And it had another, you know, few listing of songs that were kind of just more kind of safe and just kind of like, felt kind of just like, you know, standard pop songs of not even that modern era, which is, I don't know, it's a really weird way to put it, but I don't know, it just kind of felt incomplete to me and just felt kind of, I guess, kind of scattered. Even more so, I mean, like the art kind of represents that from the, you know, the art in the album that you look and it's just like a bunch of like really odd kind of like faces being like stitched together and stuff, kind of like horror type of art or like sculpting and just some interesting shit. Those guys they're notorious for having all kinds of wonderful art in their albums. But this one was just, yeah, it just almost kind of didn't feel like the band. And I think they wanted that. They wanted it to be kind of a transformative point in their career because they were like, finally, they're free of this contractual, you know, nightmare. I don't know if it was a nightmare for them, but I'm sure it was a pain in the ass to be beholden to this giant fucking record entity. Like, you owe us, guys, 15 years running, you know, let's button this shit up, give us our albums. So yeah, you guys can get the fuck out of our office. You know, I don't know how the industry is, but I don't know. This album was just, it was an interesting one. So that's number 11 for me, the Pearl Jam titled album. Some call it the Avocado album from 2006. All right, number 10 on the list. Another one from their more recent chunk of albums. My number 10 is Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt, cool album. Aesthetically, the art presentation, all that, probably one of my more favorite of the albums. As far as the outer kind of just, you know, package deal is what you're getting. As an art piece, pretty elaborate and cool, lots of interesting inserts, you know, large 12 by 12, you know, inserts in the LP that just like have really cool, stark, red, black, white, iconography, I guess, is that the proper term? But yeah, really, really interesting, really intriguing, lots of really fucking cool songs. Yeah, this was kind of like them continuing along this trail of like their inspirations from early on in their days and probably their teenage years and stuff like that when they were listening to kind of, you know, a lot of punk rock and a lot of heavy metal and stuff like that, you know, of the 80s. And this is a continuation. A lot of their albums from before this also were starting to get that way, like kind of just reliving their youth. And a lot of stuff was like, you know, punk fueled, really cool coming out in this album, you know, and this was 2013. So a lot of songs written again by Mike McCready. He's been doing a ton of the songwriting ever since about 10 years ago. You see a huge listing on every album. There's Mike McCready's getting at least like four songs on every album, basically. So this was a Mike heavy album, lots of awesome sick guitar parts and metal. You know what I mean? Mike McCready is the metal of Pearl Jam, the metal inspiration, and a lot of the punk rock inspiration too. You get that in this album, Mind Your Manners. I think isn't that the fucking first song on the album? Mind Your Manners. Fucking awesome. This album has one of my favorite Mike McCready songs. The really heart-wrenching, kind of like disturbing in a sense and just super saddening. The song that he wrote called Sirens, it's about his own personal like dance with death, I guess. He in the group has been most notorious for having many different, you know, substance abuse issues and medical, like serious life-threatening medical issues and shit. So yeah, Mike McCready, hold on, brother. But he wrote that song called Sirens, and that is just like, whew, one of Pearl Jam's most haunting songs ever since like the early days of like Jeremy and, you know, stuff like that. It's a great fucking song. Oh man, and that, you know, that duo, Stone Gossard and Jeff Ament, because they're like the original founding dudes, the two of them as songwriters, and like they were Pearl Jam after, of course, the Green River days, and then the Mother Love Bone, you know, thing fell apart, unfortunately. Stone and Jeff were always like the songwriting duo, and they're just They're unstoppable, man. They wrote that song Infallible on Lightning Bolt, which is it's probably my favorite song. That, and beside another one, another Jeff Ament song, the bass player, just really great songwriter. He wrote that song called Yellow Moon. It's one of the last songs on the album, just kind of a really awesome kind of by the campfire hippie jam, kind of talking about the yellow moon on the rise, and you have this like large whining guitar solo by Mike McCready near the end. It almost kind of sounds like it should be like a harmonica, you know, wailing at the moon kind of blues thing by the campfire. Like, I love that shit. Jeff Ament, great songwriting. So yeah, that's my number 10 on their studio albums list, Lightning Bolt 2003. Okay, doing a lot of talking here, folks. Mind me, please excuse me while I wet my whistle. Lots of talking here at the Square to Circle Music channel. All right, number 9 on my list of Pearl Jam's greatest studio albums. This is gonna maybe take a few of you Pearl Jam fans by kind of surprise. I'm not the biggest fan of this album, and kind of never have been since it very first came out. I didn't really latch on to much of it. I did like some of it. You know, I was really young when it came out. I was just like 8th grade. I was in the 8th grade when this album came out. So I still was kind of like absorbing 10 and really kind of hung up on the sound of 10. But then when Versus came out in 1993, it just kind of was like, there was so many kind of like weird, lame, radio-friendly hits that I just kind of like, I didn't really latch on to that much. The elderly woman behind the counter in a small town was just kind of like, okay, I kind of like that, of that kind of simplistic and folky kind of thing. You could tell Eddie Vedder was his, you know, style and inspirations were kind of really, he was starting to get, you know, he was allowed to start contributing some songwriting, wherein all the way up to that point, it was the Stone and Jeff show, like straight up. And, you know, Mike was writing quite a bit of shit too, but it was primarily the Stone and Jeff show. So you can tell that was like one of Eddie's like first things that he wanted to give to the band. And what was the other one that was kind of like a lot more radio friendly? Well, there's a lot of them, but I really like the opening track. Don't go on me. Fucking, that's a ripping tune. And come to find, I didn't even know that was one of the very few tunes that Dave Abruzzese gave to the band. Dave Abruzzese, their third drummer? I think he was their third drummer. And probably most notorious of the whole story of the 5 drummers of Pearl Jam. He's like kind of the most like, you know, dramatic part of Pearl Jam's history, if you want to consider it that. But yeah, besides the lawsuit, the Dave Abruzzese thing was just kind of like, I don't know, he gave a lot to the band in their kind of like, you know, really important salad days when, you know, they had already made a giant of an album, but then they kind of had to continue that because of their, you know, agreement with Epic. They just had to crank a bunch of shit out. So he definitely helped with that, and he was a machine. He was a machine of a drummer, excellent drummer. So I like his additions to that album. Yeah, and I mean, one of the kind of, you know, could be considered like one of Pearl Jam's like heaviest tunes, like borderline kind of thrash metal. In a sense, this song, pretty dope. That song, Blood, I fucking love that song. And my 13-year-old, 14-year-old brain was like, what? Like, what is going on? Oh my God. Pretty intense shit. Roll me over, stab me down, one-way needle. It's my blood. Fucking craziness. Yeah, great song. Yeah, and it has the song Leash. That song is fucking awesome. Drop the leash. Get out of my fucking face. What does he say? Get out of my lucky face? Or whatever. Pretty great album. It's just, I don't think it's really up there with a few more of their giants. So I'm putting Versus at the number 9 spot, 1993. Okay, number 8. I've talked about this one before on my channel. Well, I've talked about a lot of their albums, but number 8 to me is kind of one of their most underrated albums, I should say. There's a few tracks on it that are kind of like, I could totally skip these. I hate to say that about Pearl Jam because they do have a lot of material, really great tunes, but I rarely will ever skip a tune of theirs because their albums are meant to be, you know, really kind of enjoyed as a whole. And I feel that from them. But this album has a few cuts that I'm just kind of like, nah. Like maybe they were trying to kind of like get back on the radio again. Like, I mean, they managed to. They had a couple radio singles from this album, but yeah, I'm talking about Riot Act from 2002. And I believe that this might have been their very last album that they had to do for Epic Records to fulfill their contract. So I think that was kind of part of just like, they really wanted to just slap out some radio-friendly hits and just be like, cut the cord, just be done. We'll make you your last chunk of money. Here's a couple of pretty okay tunes, but still kind of sappy and kind of unnecessary, if you ask me. This was the introduction of Boom Gasper on the keys, playing like all sorts of stuff, organ and Rhodes and just all kinds of interesting, cool stuff, but never imagined Pearl Jam with a keyboard player. There's fucking 3 guitarists in the band. Like, Pearl Jam doesn't need a keyboard player. But still, the guy was cool as hell, I guess. You know, he wrote a few of these songs. Love Boat Captain, just kind of a cheese dick radio hit. Like, okay, simple 4-chord, boring ass structure and just kind of 6/8 time, you know. I don't know. There's some fun lyrical moments, but I don't know, it's really not that fantastic. My favorite songs on that album, they're both written by Matt Cameron, which is awesome. The Crop Duster song is fucking dope. And that really kind of creepy, weird, I think he even played the guitar on some of this song. The You Are, is that what I think it's called? You Are, You Are. It's got a really cool like reverse reverb on cymbals and shit and flange and all kinds of interesting sounds going on. Like, really cool song. It reminds me of some like crazy kind of like techno rock of like the late 80s, industrial type shit. I don't know. Pretty cool fucking song. So yeah, that album has just a mixed bag of crazy shit on it, and some really dorky radio friendly bullshit, and then some really experimental wicked cool stuff. So yeah, Riot Act 2002, pretty interesting, cool era for Pearl Jam in that era, like from 2000 when Matt Cameron joined the band, and then the 3 albums after that. Really interesting years for them. Pretty cool. A lot of people just kind of totally skipped over that and don't know anything about that era. As soon as Yield hit, everyone was done with Pearl Jam. They were just kind of like, all right, tired of this fucking band. Tired of them already. And the rest of us folks who love and adore everything they do is just, these are the best years. Oh my God, 98 to, 2006, pretty incredible. So yeah. Moving on down the line, Mage, quit gabbing so much. Number 7 on my list. This is the tricky part. Everyone's like, 12, I thought they only had 11, right? I say because, yes, it's a compilation album, but it's a compilation album that has no other material on any other of their fucking studio albums. So really, all in all, it's all tape, original tape, from different sessions all throughout at least about a 15-year period. All stuff that Brendan O'Brien just like kept on analog and filed away and just left it. And a lot of it got lost, and they called that album Lost Dogs, a double disc compilation album of all unreleased B-sides from everything from like even their first album and like the days between, recording all of that material for 10 and then when they started sessions for Versus. All kinds of great shit, and on down the line, all the way up until at least probably 2000, the year 2000. So pretty amazing. Just stuff that nobody has ever heard. One of my favorite songs is the Black, Red, and Yellow song. That's a Vedder. You can tell just kind of like early Eddie Vedder, like right at the beginning of kind of like the Vitology sessions. Really cool, interesting sounds. I like all those kind of like super early era, kind of haunting like 10 era into the Versus era stuff that was like intended to be on the 10 album, but they kind of were scrapped, or other things were picked to, you know, take their place. The song Hard to Imagine, really cool, echoey, ethereal, kind of sad tune. And again, into the third track called Footsteps, it's got harmonica on it. It's just like really cool old shit. No one's ever heard these songs if you, they were never on the radio, you know, and if you're not really kind of like a lifelong kind of like hard-nosed Pearl Jam person, you don't know this album. It, you know, it didn't receive any fanfare, you know. Like I said, this came out in, when was it? 2003. So 2003, most people from the 90s had forgotten about, like I said, forgotten about Pearl Jam. Way back in the late 90s, they were just kind of like, okay, don't care about this band anymore. So it kind of went way the fuck under everybody's radar. And I love pulling that out when people say, oh, I love Pearl Jam. I've always loved Pearl Jam, you know, and they want to talk Pearl Jam with you. I like slipping this one and talking about these tunes and putting this on and be like, oh man, these are some of the greatest. No one's ever heard any of these songs. It's so great. Oh, that song, it is my favorite on that album. It's a Stone song. It's written by Stone Gossard. It's called Strangest Tribe. That is an amazing fucking song. So everybody check that out. If you're not familiar with that album, and you do claim to like Pearl Jam, you gotta have it. You can find it in the CD format anywhere for $10. Getting that shit on LP, you're gonna pay $1,000. So go get the CD. It's magnificent. Okay, so that concludes the first half of the list. I know I'm talking a lot, everybody, but thank you for joining my channel. Hit the subscribe button, you know, punch the thumb button and tell me you love me. Hey, go visit me on the Instagram. I'm Square the Circle Records on Instagram. And I, you know, post pictures of my records and stuff. So there's my little spiel. Let's move on down the line, shall we? Talking about the studio albums by the monster rock band Pearl Jam. Where are we? We're number 6, right? Yeah. Number 6 on the list for me is Backspacer from 2009. This one made it quite a bit higher than I bet a lot of you folks were thinking it would. Again, these years, I love how what they were doing was just kind of like trying to get back to that, like those young buck days when they were just full of, you know, fire and piss and vinegar. This was like super heavy on the, you know, metal and punk influences in their early years. And you can really tell, again, lots of tunes written by Matt Cameron and Mike McCready, proving to be like pretty great like songwriting duo for albums. Like the shit that they crank out, like it's very synonymous, those two, Mike McCready and his metal and punk sensibilities. And we all know about Matt Cameron's history, and also, you know, metal and punk giant, you know, of the Seattle area. So yeah, this album shows that. It has so much energy. The big radio hit that they got is magnificent. That Fixer song, hey, do, you know, it's just like super fucking cool punk song. I love the lyrical content. It's really great. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's just, I think they all wrote that song. I think everybody is credited in the band of collaborating and writing that song together. Again, the first track on the album, so the Fixer's not the first track. The first track on the album is fucking dope. That's my favorite. It's called Gonna See My Friend. It's like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, I think Stone wrote it, and it's kind of mixed with a lot of weird innuendos and a lot of like, you know, I don't know. It's hard to put your finger on what that song is supposed to be talking about, but I don't know, you be the judge. Go put that track on, opening track on the Backspacer album. It's called I'm Gonna See My Friend. Pretty crazy shit. Great fucking album. All right, number 5 for me. Here we go, boys and girls. Top 5 studio Pearl Jam albums. 5 on my list is Yield from 1998. Big deal for me, awesome album. That was my time. That was my era with Pearl Jam. You know, this my favorite. I mean, 94 to 2000 was the best years, in my opinion, for Pearl Jam. And Yield just kind of like, yeah, it rang a lot of bells for me. It's magnificent. Incredible song list. Nearly a perfect album, honestly, with like very few songs that don't really impact you. I mean, they all had an impact on me, but I don't know. This album, far and away, is one of their most impactful albums as far as just really touching songs and clever songs and powerful songs, front to back. The song Faithful, by Mike McCready, he wrote that. Given to Fly, it was a radio hit, I'm pretty sure. Amazing, like, just like uplifting, grandiose tune. And Mike McCready wrote that one too. He did a huge contribution to this album. And also by Stone Gossard, some of the more kind of heavy, thematic kind of stuff. This album has that amazing. They finally did a music video again. They hadn't done a music video since their first album, and then they said, we're done with music videos. We're done with that bullshit. And they didn't make a video again until this album, until 1998, for that song "Do the Evolution." That's a Stone Gossard song. I always thought that was an Eddie Vedder song, but no, Stone wrote that fucking song. Really, really great song. Ending the album with another Stone Gossard song, "All Those Yesterdays," has like that really great like Beatles-esque influence on it. What a magnificent song. So yeah, Yield, definitely number 5 on my list. Okay, let's quicken the pace here, folks. You're tired of listening to me talk. Number 4, in my opinion, on the list of greatest Pearl Jam studio albums, ranked. I say No Code, 1996. Again, like I said, in that period for me, it was just kind of like a ne'er-do-wrong period in Pearl Jam's history. For me, anything they put out after Vitology is just like, yeah, do whatever the fuck you want. In my opinion, No Code was probably their most experimental. I mean, experimental with like with sound, with recording, with I mean, not necessarily, I guess stylistically. This was a big period for them when they've got their 4th drummer. Oh shit, what's his butt? Is it Jack Irons? For some reason, I always want to say Jeremy Irons. I'm pretty sure it's Jack Irons. Yeah, really interesting fit for the band. I loved it. But the general population and people who have had kind of been fans since the band's inception, a lot of folks were just like, what the fuck? Really? I don't know. Going from Dave Abruzzese and Jack Irons are 2 entirely, completely different drummers, stylistically speaking. Completely different. Couldn't be more salt and pepper. I don't know. I loved what he was giving to the band at that period in time, and how he gelled so well with, Eddie Vedder taking over a huge amount of the songwriting. And assuming that, I'm sure Stone and Jeff and Mike were fine with it. I'm sure they were getting along with everybody. And I think Eddie really wanted Dave Abruzzese gone. And so inviting Jack into the band, because Jack was friends of Eddie's from Southern California. They were surfer buddies probably. He was the first drummer for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So just like a really great vibe. You know what I mean? You can sense that on the No Code album. It was incredibly experimental compared to what they had been doing early on in their career. So we love and respect it for that. All the other people can go fuck themselves. They don't like the sound of No Code. Whatever, you're not a Pearl Jam fan. Fuck off. I think it's magnificent. Really cool. A real art piece. The presentation and the packaging, everything they were doing. If you get that shit in LP format, I've had it in LP format. I don't happen to have it in my collection right now, but all the pullouts and the Polaroid film inserts things are all like, large size 12 by 12, and it's just insane. It's so fucking great. What artists, what amazing songwriters. Songs like Hail Hail, it's like kind of the first track on the album. There's just that weird that weird little intro. It's not an instrumental, but it's just kind of like real mellow, and then it just fucking boom, and it just hits you up the side of the head with the song "Hail, Hail the Only Ones." Oh, fucking sick. What else is on that? Probably this is definitely on my top 5 favorite Pearl Jam songs of all time, is Off He Goes. Eddie Vedder wrote that one, just that really sad and sardonic tale about his friend. Off he goes, and never knowing if he's ever going to see the guy again, that kind of thing. And just, everyone's had friends die. It's a tough one for me. It personally reminds me of a long gone friend, long lost friend. So yeah, we all love that song. The song Habit that Eddie wrote. Red Mosquito, primarily written by Mike McCready and I think Stone. Just really awesome, just 6'8", whining blues guitar, just really showing off Mike McCready's fucking strutting his fingers, man. That guy, not much of a better song can be, you know, representative of what Mike McCready does than that one. That one's one of the best. You can look at the 10 years and all of that amazing shit Mike was doing all over his fretboard on the 10 album, you know, Alive and Even Flow. But it's like, that's even still, that shit was kind of, it wasn't Bush League, but it was just kind of like fundamental. You look at it and you're like, okay, that even a guy like me who's just an idiot drummer, I can look and figure it out. That's some pretty cool kind of fundamental shit he was doing. He was just a huge Jimi Hendrix fan, you know? But then you get to this, you know, this era and what he's doing on, like I said, on that song Red Mosquito. And it's just like, that shit is dripping with fucking soul, dude, dripping with soul. Mike had already been through some shit. you can tell with the way he plays his guitar on that song, Red Mosquito. Yeah, No Code, just incredible album through and through. That's my number 4. All right, number 3, here's the top 3. For me, number 3 is Binaural from 2000. It's like, dude, yes, Matt Cameron is the drummer for Pearl Jam now. Oh my God. Oh my God. That was just the most monumental, insanely cool fucking thing ever. And then when you put that shit on the player and you put it in, it's like, what you're hearing, it made me shit myself. I was so happy. I was so gleeful because it was so fucking great. I think the first track is Break or Fall, isn't it? Well, only love can break or fall. Oh no. So fucking good, dude. And then, yeah, God's Dice, track 2. The first 3 songs on this album are fucking unstoppable. And then the Evacuation. I think that was a Matt Cameron tune as well. That feels and sounds like a Matt Cameron song. Yeah, dude. Nothing As It Seems. Lots of really cool, haunting, ethereal moments on this album. Lots of just kind of open space. This is Brendan O'Brien at his very, very pinnacle. Brendan O'Brien was finally just kind of like him being the kind of master fingers from basically, I think, Vitology, right? I don't know who produced Verses. Fuck me. Somebody put it in the comments, because now I feel bad that I don't remember who recorded and produced the Verses album, but I don't believe that was Brendan O'Brien's first. I think Vitology was. But by this time, 2000, I mean, the guy was already a legend, and he's just being, you know, the 6th member of Pearl Jam, like, forever now. So, really made this album just sound so, like I said, ethereal. Is just really sonically pleasing. Even the most kind of like, you know, just like harsh and, you know, kind of in your face punk Eddie Vedder moments, you know, they even those moments still felt really warm and just kind of like enveloping, yet maintaining its like raw personality. Pearl Jam has such that raw personality, and that's Brendan O'Brien, dude. I mean, everything's analog. It's all reel to reel. So he knows what the fuck he's doing. It has that masterful touch, that sonically rich touch in everything he does. Yeah, this was probably one of his best works with Pearl Jam, in my opinion. But yeah, all magnificent songs. The song Thin Air. There's a light when my baby's in my arms. Stone Gossard, dude. Fuck. But I know she's reached my heart in thin air. Yeah, what masterful songwriting. That song's beautiful. Parting Ways is another beautiful song. Yeah, that Parting Ways, that's the last track on Binaural, and that's gotta clock in and probably being one of Pearl Jam's longest tracks ever, one of their longest songs, except for Release, the last track on the 10 album. That doesn't count because that's just kind of like a, you know, basically an outro. That's like a 10-minute song, but yeah, that's Parting Ways is probably at least 7 or 8 minutes. It's a pretty long Pearl Jam song. Really great though, really beautiful end to a wonderful album. That's my number 3. Okay, guys, what's second best and what's best? To me, I say number 2 is 10. It's perfect. It's perfect. To me, it's still number 2, but it's absolutely perfect. Their, you know, debut, and it kicks so much fucking ass. First 4 tracks on the song, you're just like, what just happened? What just fucking happened? This is 1991. And I'm not going to say no one's ever heard anything like this before, but it was just so different. Same but different. You know, it was kind of same, but it was still so different. You know, thanks to Eddie Vedder and his interesting baritone. But even still, like I said, those early days and that master duo companionship and the vibe and the spirit that Jeff Ament and Stone Gossard had together after coming off of trying to already like make themselves musicians for life, by trade, you know, in a band that was doing so well, and then the band being completely poof, gone, sadness all around. What do we do, you know? And to come out of that so quickly and still be so young and still write such a bulk of amazing tunes together and create one of America's greatest hard rock bands of all time. You know, Jeff Ament and Stone Gossard, dude, that was that album. They were that album, the 10 album, their debut album. It's basically the brainchild of those guys, you know? And thank goodness for, you know, Eddie Vedder and his amazing pipes and his even more amazing kind of dark lyrical cynicism that's just pasted all over this in kind of punk rock fashion, but still, you know, like I said, it maintained that kind of little bit of the old, little bit of the new. It was very classic rock inspired. No one can deny that, you know, thanks to, like I said, Mike McCready's guitar styling. So, you know, nearly emulating everything that like Jimi Hendrix ever did and Eric Clapton and whatever else. You know, you could tell those guys loved and grew up on classic blues rock. And I think, you know, a lot of us that were just experiencing this new sound still kind of wanted that. We still kind of wanted some dick and balls with our alternative rock. It's like, is this really alternative? Like, who cares? Who cares if it is? Who cares if it isn't? It's still fucking really good. And so that was 10. I heard that shit for the first time when I was 11 to 12 years old. You know, and when I heard it live on the radio, it totally shook me up, completely shook me up. Pretty amazing fucking album. Yeah, like I said, first 4, and then you get that really interesting, cool, soft, kind of like, not interlude, but just kind of like a real, just kind of like, fucking take a breath, dude. And you just have that interesting, clean guitar of Mike playing in the background, that great guitar riff, but like recorded across the room through a tin can, you know, and then all of a sudden Jeff Ament just beep boo, cut down shades of empty candles, you know. It's like, what, dude? So beautiful and so interesting. Like, I go back and forth with that song all the time. Sometimes that song can kind of annoy me, but it's truly epic and beautiful. The song Black, you know, and then just finishing off the A side with Jeremy, like that shit hit me so hard. Even the sound, like the sound of the entry, is it Jeff that's playing that on the bass? Doom boom boom boom. It's harmonics. I think it's Jeff Ament on the bass doing some harmonics, as well as some interesting effects on a low E string of a guitar. Anyway, however they get that chiming entry of you know, when Jeremy first hits, it almost kind of sounds like bells chiming, you know what I mean? So haunting. What an incredible tune. That shit fucking changed my life. It really did. Companion with the video. When they put their video on MTV. And I saw that shit and I was fucking 13 years old for the first time. It actually changed my perception of a lot of things. So yeah, good or bad, it happened. So pretty amazing band, pretty amazing album. Second only to, yeah, 1994's Vitology. Vitology also, I mean, I've said 10 is a perfect album just for what it is and how I feel about it. And I kind of, in the past, I wanted to be like, well, you know, Vitology is not a perfect album, but it's perfect to me, you know? And more so over time, like, I'm just like, fuck it. I mean, Vitology is perfect in every way, shape, and form. Their most experimental album ever. And for 1994, what they were coming out of, and still kind of on this train with like, okay, we hate our drummer. We're roped in here. We don't really like this fame shit that we kind of fell into, you know? And they're mired in a fucking legal battle with one of the giants of the music industry as far as ticketing and everything. What a fucking nightmare. You know what I mean? But whatever. They made lemonade. You know, some dope, golden, dope-ass lemonade out of them lemons. And I don't know. Everybody's touch. This was heavy. Finally, like, Vedder was just kind of allowed to, like, take, I wouldn't say creative control. I'm sure no one in the band would ever be like, yeah, Ed got creative control. I doubt that was the situation. I'm sure they were all just kind of like, cool. Yeah, dude, you want to do some of the heavy lifting? Fuck yeah. Let Ed do some of the heavy lifting, you know? And boy, howdy did he. What incredible songwriting, mastery in every way, shape, and form. Vocal stylings, changing and manipulating, getting less from the guttural kind of drony, like yogurt in your mouth kind of thing, and really experimenting, getting into his upper registers and his high voice and his throat voice and screaming. The just insane fucking cool little like vignettes, the little half tracks in between. There's like 2 or 3 of them. Interesting poetry and just kind of like, you know, this, I don't know, the packaging was gorgeous. All the really cool like medical journal kind of photographs and dark imagery and just kind of like, yeah, a total jump, a total dive off the deep end. As far as 10 and verses, you know, 91 and 93, here's 94. And it's like, they totally, in a sense, kind of reinvented themselves. That shit is just hardwired to my brain. I love it so dearly. Every single track is incredible. Spin the Black Circle. I mean, it starts out with Last Exit, and that's a ripping tune. And then it Don't Quit with Spin the Black Circle. And then they fuck you 3 ways from Sunday with Not For You. Pardon me, was it in reverse order? It was Not For You before Spin the Black Circle? No, I think I said it right. And it's just like, dude, calm down, you know? And they calm me down with track 4, Tremor Christ, you know? Thank goodness. And I think what's after that, like Nothing Man, even more of kind of like, let's mellow out. And I believe that's the end of the A side, right? And then opening track on the B side. Oh yeah, Corduroy, probably their biggest radio hit off that album, right? I don't know. No, Nothing Man wasn't on the radio, was it? Fuck, I don't know. It's safe to say Corduroy was probably their biggest single from that album. But yeah, after Corduroy, dude, it goes to some weird places. What do you got, like that Satan's Bed song? Like, I think Stone wrote that. Fucking talking about some crazy shit. Yeah, it just gets even better and just weird and dark. Last track is just like this really strange recording of like some young girl saying some pretty off-color shit, and like, I don't know, dude. Really interesting, cool alt-rock album. Like, in my opinion, it's my greatest album of all time. I mean, it's my favorite album of all time. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Yeah, it just is. It's my favorite album of all time. Pearl Jam's Vitology from 1994. Yep, I said it. I mean it. There it is. There's all 12 of Pearl Jam's studio albums ranked. So, yeah, if you guys got any problem with that, tell me about it in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to all my videos that you watch. You can scroll down and see my rich history of entries and uploads on YouTube over the last year plus. I've got like 300 plus subscribers now. I'm just cranking it out, guys. I'm a motherfucking YouTuber. That's what I do. All right, love you guys. Peace be with you. Signing off from the Square the Circle Music Channel in Springfield, Oregon. Your pal, Mage.